So we're talking episode 7 of HBO's Lovecraft Country, where Tick and Letty may have more things in common than they expected, and they may have a surprise coming their way, and Hippolyta reclaims her name. We're talking about that and much more. Episode 7 of HBO's Lovecraft Country was titled I Am. Hippolyta's relentless search for answers takes her on a multi-dimensional journey of self-discovery, and Atticus consults with an old family friend. Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with my weekly recap, breakdown, and review of the latest episode of HBO's Lovecraft Country. We're talking episode 7. Where the hell has time gone? We're talking about I Am, an episode about reclaiming your name, about time travel, and we got some questions answered in this episode, no less. Very excited to talk about it in this spoiler discussion. Before we break it down, as you all can see on the screen now, make sure you're following me on all my other social media accounts. That way you can stay up to date with what's going on over here at Movie Files. If you are new to this channel, Movie Files, welcome. Definitely subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my other Lovecraft Country videos, my other TV show reviews, my movie reviews, my live streams, and all the fun things we do on this very channel. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Not only does it help out the channel, but I also really appreciate it. And in the comments below, you all have been so great at leaving your thoughts, your theories, your predictions, and just having some great breakdowns with you all in the comments. And I love it. I love reading all your comments, and I have such a great time doing so. So definitely continue the conversation in the comments below. So Aunjanue Ellis, such a fantastic actress. One thing that I have loved about this show, not only has it been great writing, fun episodes, some really great moments, but they write their women so strong, and they're so predominantly used in this show, and it's just beautiful to see. And Aunjanue Ellis, who's just been a fantastic actress her whole career. I mean, just look at her resume. But I think of like one of my favorite shows of the last decade, When They See Us, and the plenty of movies I've seen her in. She got her time to shine in this episode, and she did such a fantastic job, in my opinion. And like I said, all the women, whether it be the Ruby episode, the Letty episode, and what we got last week with Gia. I mean, it's just been so great to see these, women of color, these minority women having their voices be heard and seen it so beautifully told on the screen. This has just been such a fun journey for me personally. But again, go ahead and leave your comments below what you thought of Aunjanue Ellis's performance, about Hippolyta, and everything that we got in this episode. Let's start the conversation. So I Am, which, by the way, for my hip-hop fans out there, I'm a big Nas fan. He's one of my favorite rappers of all time. That was his 1999 album title, right? I Am, which was the album about claiming your name, right? About claiming his his name in the hip-hop game, coming off of Illmatic, and it was written. So very cool kind of reference there, as well as there's another hip-hop album by Outkast that I'll mention a little bit later. But no, this was a really great episode, guys. This might not be my favorite. Again, I have to rewatch these a couple times, but this is definitely up there in regards to just the scope and the scale and the story and the reclaiming of your name and the time travel elements in those big answers that we got in this episode. So let's go ahead and just get into this recap here. It starts off with Hippolyta going through her notes of this Ori that's sitting right in front of her like a mad scientist, right? Looking at all the figures and the numbers and notes she's gathered. And we get on the screen 3 days ago. So we already know we're going to kind of go back and revisit some things in the past. But I thought this was interesting, guys. So we see the 3 days ago. I think this was, I don't know. Let me know how you guys feel. Was this a missed opportunity to not see Hippolyta and Diana go back to Arnhem and nothing happened to them in the sundown town? We see that they go back there. We see the house of Titus all destroyed from episode 2, obviously. But I thought it was interesting that we didn't see anything really kind of come of that, other than her finding that her husband George was in this house. But I thought we would have gotten a little bit more from that, but obviously we didn't. As we kind of move forward, we see, Dee saying, "Mom, we don't need to be here." Obviously she's nervous and all that good stuff, but we go back to Hippolyta in the room where she sees that she's frustrated. She throws the Ori figure on the ground, just being mad she can't figure out what's going on. But as this Ori figure is kind of tilted upside down, she starts to put the pieces to the puzzle together. She sees, and this is where we kind of get going back to episode 4, where we kind of get those Indiana Jones vibes. We get kind of that similar vibe within this episode, and particularly in this moment with the music cue. We see the Ori opens itself up. This key kind of comes out, makes kind of like a Mario sound in a sense. But as we kind of see on the screen now, it says that every beginning is in time and every limit of expansion in space with these coordinates. So we already know. I remember this is everyone's, when's the episode we time travel, right? We've been talking about time travel for the longest time, but this is more than just time travel, right? We're getting these multi-dimensional kind of a la multiverse for my DC and Marvel fans, and her just traveling through these different portals in different times and different multiverses in a different dimension, and we'll talk about all those different places she visited. But I would just, like I said, off the top, I just thought this was a very fun, unique episode. Again, you don't see people of color traveling through time much, right? We don't see people of color kind of reclaiming their name in the mix of figuring out the stuff that's going on within this show. So I really enjoyed the time travel elements, and we'll get to that point. But we got some jumping around this episode, so I don't know how you all feel about how much ground we covered in this episode, kind of checking in with people we haven't seen in a couple weeks. I thought it was pretty interesting. We haven't seen some of these characters in weeks, so we start off with someone I didn't think, or two people I didn't think we were going to see, at least in this episode, at least maybe a couple weeks from now, was Ruby and Christina. So again, wasn't expecting this. We see, the basement. We talked about it on my live stream when I had Shannon and the wonderful KB on the show. We talked about what the hell is in that basement, right? Whenever there's a creepy show, a horror show, there's always something going on in a damn basement. But we figure it out. We found out what's in the basement, and a lot of you all made theories about this. A lot of you all that made that attended the live stream commented on this, that I bet you William is in that basement. And so lo and behold, we have not only Will, but we have Dale in the basement, and it is confirmed that they are dead. So in order to have your body be used as this vessel for this potion, which she tells us, she's using the blood to make this potion, that's how they're using it, right? So again, as I had made in my theory a couple weeks ago with Strange Case, episode 5, I think that we're going to see more people, dead people, and someone using their bodies, aka Samuel, Uncle George, who we'll talk about a little bit later, and some other characters. So very interesting stuff that we find out within this scene. Christina reveals kind of her motives, and again, this was a lot of you all made this theories. Kudos to you all for being correct on these theories. We find out her motives behind wanting to get revenge for her past lover William, but also, as she tells Ruby, it's more than just that. Her plans to kind of get involving the Order of the Ancient Dawn, which a lot of us had theorized about her trying to make her dad proud, make him kind of, realize that he doesn't have to have a son to kind of live on his legacy, but, he can use her to get a part of this group. And she wanted to impress him, but as she kind of found out that she doesn't need to impress him, again, it's all about self-discovery with all of our characters, and particularly the women in the show, about not want to conform to what the men in the show or the fathers or, the uncles want them to be, right? So we see Christina that was her motives, but after she was taught by William how to use magic, she's the one that figured out this potion. She figured out she can do bigger and better things. And then we get the conversation between the two where Ruby confronts her, right? And Ruby says, so you slept with me, and I want to know what the hell's going on. I don't want any more lies. She demands that she tells her the truth, and she mentions to her about the lost pages of the books of names. And this also includes her family, which we're going to talk about here in a bit. So again, we go from Ruby to, Christina. Now we're going to Letty and Tick. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is very interesting. So we see Liddy is sleeping. She is having a dream. Letitia's having a dream that Tick has, which is Hannah in Titus's house running through the fire with the book of names that we're assuming that's what she's holding. But instead of Tick being in the body of I assume, Titus, and normally we see Tick in that body, but this time it's Letitia. So ladies and gentlemen, are they related? Is there some relation going on with Letitia and Tick and the Freeman family? What do we think about that, guys? I want to know your thoughts in the comments, and we'll talk about maybe some other things that might be in relation to these two being a family sooner rather than later. But again, catching up with Tick and Letitia after, she has her nightmare, he tells her that He's translated half of the pages, and Letitia tells him about her dreams. And again, they're sharing the same dream. And I'm just like, dude, if they're related, dude, they've been sleeping together. We got some Game of Thrones stuff going on here with incest. Now, again, they don't know that they're related, but again, that would be kind of interesting nonetheless. So we see Tick suspects that Hannah's trying to tell them something. There's something that Hannah is trying to tell them. And they also suspect that she escaped with the book of names. And a lot of you all, again, the great comments, the great conversations we had, we kind of speculated that she might have the book of names. So we go from Tick and Liddy to Letitia to Sammy and Montrose. So we catch up with them. We see Sammy cooking breakfast. This is his first time spending the night, as we know from episode 5. It seems like Montrose is finally embracing who he is, at least to Sammy, at least not to the public, but at least to Sammy. So we see, Sammy making breakfast. Sammy mentions to Montrose that he ran into one of the neighbors, which Montrose was like, "Oh, did they see you?" Because obviously he doesn't want to be outed and let his neighbors and obviously some of his other closest friends and family know him being gay, identified as a gay man. But they have some conversations there, and Montrose is kind of complaining about the breakfast being the oatmeal not being good, the grits not being kind of runny, the coffee having too much sugar in it, kind of maybe taking a dig at Sammy being more kind of embracing his feminine side to him being gay. So they have a little bit of a fight there, and Sammy mentions to him, "Well, here we go yet again. Whenever we get close, you start to push me away," which is something we've seen in the 5th episode, and something that we can kind of tell that Montrose is kind of upset that he might have been seen when coming in, and this, that, and the other. So we see Sammy walks out of the house. And I'm telling you all, I'm not lying. When I saw this moment happen, my jaw was on the ground. I literally yelled like, "Oh no, oh no." So the moment happens, guys, that we've been waiting to see in regards to when is this going to finally happen. So we see as Sammy walks out of the house, Tick and Letitia are in the hallway, and they see Sammy storm out, with Montrose's shirt undressed and him trying to grab Sammy back. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see what's going on here. So the moment I literally shouted out loud, like, "Here we go," because this is the last time Tick and Montrose seen each other. Tick was beating the hell out of his dad. So as the scene kind of plays out again, Sammy leaves, and Tick asks him the question, "Are you gay?" He uses a more inappropriate, offensive term to ask him that question, but Montrose takes off his shirt and says, "Damn it, boy, I'm your daddy, and, you better respect my name." And, I'm thinking to myself, Montrose, you need to calm down, because last time, you saw your son, he was giving you that 1-2 combo, Mike Tyson style, but, I'm thinking in this moment, this isn't going to end well. So Tick asks him the question, "Did Mama know? Did Dora know?" And he flat out says yes. So now speculating those news. Okay, Dora knew. George, did he know? I think we can assume and confirm that George knew, and we're going to talk about George and Dora and all that a little bit later. But he does tell her that his mom knew. Tick runs out. Letty just asks him, he says, "Why did you guys come?" And we see Tick outside, clearly upset by the news. Letitia tells Tick that, she did ask Montrose about, Hannah and his mom and Dora. Well, not Hannah, but asked him about Dora. And she tells Tick that, they have a cousin that survived the Tulsa riots. Again, we're going to talk about the Tulsa riots. We're going to talk about time travel and talk about Tick and maybe being there and all that stuff. We'll talk about that later. But, there is a cousin that survived that lives in St. Louis. Shout out to St. Louis. I actually live in St. Louis. And I live in Chicago. So this show is just like hitting me on all levels on a personal level. But either way, Tick tells Letitia about Montrose whooping his ass when he was a kid. And he did that, but he didn't want him to get soft. But in some messed up way, Tick always kind of took that as a way as his dad cared for him. So a very pivotal moment, man. Again, Tick finds out about his dad. He's been so headstrong on impressing his dad when he was growing up. He's been abused by his dad, and now that he finds out, he's confirmed that his dad's gay. That really is messing with his head. So very, very big reveal there that we've been speculating for weeks about. So we go from there to Ruby, Hippolyta, Diana, Tick, and Letty on this next scene here. Again, we haven't seen these characters. I don't think we've seen all these characters on the screen at the same time, at least for a very long time, to say the least. But Ruby says her goodbye to Hippolyta as she goes out on her travels, and we see Tick and Letty, and I'm just like, okay, now we're going to get another conversation between some characters we haven't seen in a while, which is Letitia and her sister Ruby. But, Letitia tells Tick, "Hey, I'm going to go ahead." Well, Tick tells Letitia to go ahead and speak to her sister, and he'll go on his mission solo dolo style. So he suggests that, and the last time, like I said, Ruby and Letitia has spoken has been episode 3, Holy Ghost, right, where she told her about the inheritance money. So this has been 4 episodes in the makings, guys. So Letitia apologizes about the money situation, and Ruby, and, she accepts her apology and says their mother never apologized. So they kind of amend their beef per se, but she doesn't mention anything about Christina. And we'll talk about that here in a second, guys. So, we cut back to them, and I'll get to the stuff, obviously, that we got in, order of the show, but I'm just going to stick on this moment here. So we see Letitia and Ruby, when we see, Dee and Bobo, which we're going to get that episode pretty soon, playing some cards. And, we see that Letitia's talking to Ruby, talking about, where have you lived these last couple weeks or whatever, right? He tells her out north, and Letitia says, oh, with a white man, which, I mean, technically speaking, yes and no, a white woman with Christina. But, this was interesting, guys. So we see them having small talk, and to me, I took that scene as Ruby getting intel as the lights shining in my face from outside. I took that scene as Ruby trying to get some information from Christina to use against them. I think Ruby is now working with Christina. I don't know if that's necessarily in her eyes, if she's like going against her sister, or she thinks she's doing the right thing to get some information, or she may have been on the dark side, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know, but I took that scene as Ruby trying to get intel for Christina. So as we're in this scene, we see Ruby making the dinner, and she asks Letitia to try some of the food, see what she's missing. And this is a big moment. So as she sniffs the food, she doesn't even taste the food. She sniffs it and she gets nauseous. And, Ruby jokingly says, oh, maybe you got a baby coming. Shout out to KB, who was on the live stream, who does a great recap show with Sharonda from Pay Her Weight. She has been speculating for weeks that there is some baby in the works from whether it be Gia, whether it be Letitia. And ladies and gentlemen, I think KB was right. I think Letitia is pregnant with Atticus' son. If it finds out that they are related, what does this mean? I don't know, but I think that moment KB called out. I think Letitia's pregnant, and her and Tick are expecting that continuancy of their legacy. So very interesting moment, it's no less. But we see Letitia in the room as the Ori kind of wakes up or whatever the case may be, but we see that Ruby sees that. She sees in a crack of the door that Ori is open, so maybe she's going to go back to Christina, tell Christina what she found, because we all know Christina wanted to get that Ori, but she can't get into the house, so there's a lot of stuff going on, some big reveals. So now we see St. Louis on the screen. Tick is on his solo dolo mission. We see Tick meets, I believe her name was Bertha, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, who knew his cousin who survived the Tulsa riots, and potentially has the book of names. She thinks that she has this family album or whatever the case may be that she shows Tick, and we see Tick notices in this family album that I believe that was his cousin that he saw the picture of had the same birthmark as he did, which interesting moment. Let me know your theories, your thoughts on the same birthmark that they have there. Is that something that just is passed down to certain people within certain generations of their family lineage? So let me know your thoughts on that same birthmark there. But we see that, he gets a call. It's Letitia telling him about the Ori figure, about Hippolyta. Hippolyta might known about Uncle George, and everything that went down in Arkham. And we see Ruby again, like I said, she sees this in the crack of the door. So we get all that stuff in St. Louis. Now we're transitioning again. This show was just like boom, 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 boom. I enjoyed it. I don't know if a lot of you all enjoyed the pacing of this episode, but I like that we were kind of like checking in, see what everyone's up to, because we haven't seen some characters in a couple weeks. But we see on the screen Mayfield, and this is where Hippolyta is traveling. She arrives to her destination, and she comes across this machine. I guess we can call it a time machine, whatever you want to call it, but she sees these coordinates on the machine. We see that she has like this kind of Russell Crowe beautiful mind moment where she's putting all the pieces to her research together, which was a really cool moment, because again, it just shows you the intellect of this character, how smart, how intelligent this character is. And she kind of puts together her algorithm of sorts, and we see the police come in, and I don't know if you guys heard the police, they had mentioned Captain Lanchester. So what the hell is he want with this device? Who is the creator of this device, more importantly? But we see them, they come in, they catch her, and out of nowhere, I don't know how Tick knew. I'm trying to remember how Tick knew that she was going to be at those exact coordinates. Okay, she knew because, Letty had called him and they had the coordinates there. He used to be in the Army. He probably understands the coordinate language. Okay, gotcha. I got you. Let me know if I'm on the right path there or he just randomly found her, but I think he found her because Letitia told her the coordinates. But either way, he comes there, fights the police. One of them gets shot by Hippolyta. One of them, he's fighting. He throws one of them in the portal, which I don't think that's good. I think that cop that's going to land somewhere in the timeline, somewhere in the multidimensional, I don't think that was a good idea. He's going to come up somewhere, somehow. Trust me when I say that. But we see as they kind of fight off these cops that Hippolyta gets sucked into the portal, as well as Tick, which, by the way, the visuals of that was just like all cool. Reminded me very much of like Doctor Strange, the first film that came out 2016. But as we kind of move forward, we see Hippolyta arrives to this unknown planet and appears where these alien kind of like celestial beings from Marvel appear to her, and HBO doesn't shy away from nudity. We see that she's butt ass naked on this table, and she has these things on her wrist, and out of nowhere we get this Afro alien looking creature. Definitely getting, like I had mentioned earlier, there's some hip hop references, like I talked about the I Am 1999 Nas album. We get kind of reminded me in this scene the 1996 second album by Outkast, AT Aliens, kind of reminded me of that a little bit there. But we see she's trying to figure out where she's at, what's going on. She starts to put the pieces of the puzzle together. Again, she's so intelligent. She is a discoverer. She discovers things. She is an intelligent character. I love Hippolyta, but we see that she figures it out. She gets to the door. She gets pushed back by the AT aliens, who continues to tell her she is not the person, right? She needs, where do you want to go? Who do you want to be? Where do you want to go? Who do you want to be? And she says to her, I want to be on stage with Josephine Baker dancing in Paris. And ladies and gentlemen, after she says that, we go to Paris with Josephine Baker, another historical figure that's included in this series. By the way, if you guys aren't too familiar with Josephine Baker, I've heard of her name, but I wasn't fully aware of her backstory. Some quick details on Josephine Baker. She was an American-born French entertainer, French resistance agent / Freemasons, and also a part of the civil rights movement. She was primarily in Europe, and she also was the very first black woman to star in a motion picture film in 1927, the silent film Siren of the Tropics. So we see that now Hippolyta is in this situation with them dancing. She takes some advice from Josephine Baker to loosen up, right? She's just been kind of pent up anger. She has a lot of anger inside of her, which we find out in this episode. But she makes her way to doing like this little kind of montage where we see and through all these different places of time she goes. So she spends some time there. I don't know what the coordinates meant. I don't know if it was weeks, if it was months, if it was years. I assume it was just like a couple weeks. But either way, we see this montage of her getting the dance routine, making friends. And like I said, it seems to be like there was some time that she spent there. But after getting, a taste of, as Hippolyta says, a taste of freedom, we see a very interesting scene between the two characters and some really good dialogue. We see that she says she wants to kill white folks. But within this moment, she hates herself for letting them make her feel small. And that's a common theme throughout this episode, throughout this season. Again, reclaiming who you are, not letting the people, white people, whether it be Tick in the situation, Gia in the situation, Ruby in her situation, all the characters we've gotten so far, not letting people tell them who they are, but them knowing who they are. Montrose, them embracing themselves. So really good moment, really good scene there that we get between the two. But again, making the white people feel like she's small. And again, that's a running theme of reclaiming yourself. And again, we see her scream, I am Hippolyta, and transports to another time. This time around, we see that she's in this kind of battle situation, this kind of practice amongst this tribe. And we see she's yet again embracing herself. We get another montage of her defeating her kind of leader of that tribe at that point in time. But now that she's defeated the leader, now she is the leader. She gets crowned the leadership. And we get 1976 Mother's Finest Fire song plays while we see them going into battle, killing these white men. Some great hand-to-hand, I guess I should say hand-to-sword combat scenes as we see Hippolyta with her sword rips this or cuts this dude's head clean off, which I thought was a really cool moment. But we see her have her like kind of 300 speech amongst her tribe as the hundreds of men run towards them. And yet again, this time she says, I am George's wife, which I have been saying this for weeks, that some way, somehow, whether it's a flashback, whether it's, him coming back, we got George in this scene. I was yelling because I've been saying this for weeks, guys. He's one of my favorite characters, R.I.P. to Uncle George. But we get him back. We see them kind of reliving that moment that we saw from episode 1 with them in the bed when we first met them. And we find out that we're in another planet. You know, she tells him everything. We're in another planet. It's kind of this multiverse situation. She's just loving, number one, seeing her husband, George, for the first time since week 1, right? Which in this timeline has probably been like 6 months, right? So she's excited to see him. She's telling him about all the stuff that she discovered. And we get a huge moment. You know, she tells him, Uncle George, about herself, which, by the way, I thought that she was going to be like, I thought this moment was going to be that she was been kind of hating herself because she knew about Uncle George and Dora. I thought that was going to be the reveal, but no, she tells him about her anger, about shrinking herself, about feeling small, and I think we can all relate to this, right? But in particularly, you know, for women, I'm a woman, obviously, but I know for women I know that are close to me, whether it be my moms or, you know, girlfriends I had, you know, and I think anyone, this is more in particularly with women, but I think men and women can both relate to this. When you get in a relationship or you get in a certain position, you start to lose yourself. And in losing yourself, you become smaller, less insignificant. But so she's kind of having that moment with Uncle George. And even though Uncle George is a great guy, they love each other, she thought that he saw her. But no, he was just complicit with her becoming smaller and just content with the life that they've lived. So I thought that was a really powerful moment. Again, I think we could all relate to that, but in particularly in that moment, her relating to that and women around the world relating to that in regards to, and like I said, men, the same thing. But, you know, whenever you get in a relationship, whenever you get this in a certain position, you kind of lose who you are as a person in order to be in a relationship. So that was a really, really great moment between those two. But yet again, we get her claiming herself and going to another area. But this time she takes Uncle George along with her on this trip, and we're on this other planet. Little alien creatures walking around. They're exploring this planet together as discoverers. And we get this moment here as she kind of discovers this planet. She goes to the mother queen, Afro queen lady from AT Aliens, and she no longer needs the device to travel through time, but she wants to go back to her daughter, Dee, which I thought was a really good moment. I think that, you know, with this new powers, we're going to use time travel more in this show with episodes 8, 9, and 10. So we see Tick. We go back to Tick. He jumps out of the portal. As you all can see in the screen now, he has a book in his hands, ladies and gentlemen, and that book is Lovecraft Country, and the writer of that book is Uncle George Freeman. So I assume Tick has went into this other multi-dimension where Uncle George has written his book. But I also think that he went to this timeline where he saved, as we all had theorized, you know, was that Atticus that saved Montrose and Uncle George back in the Tulsa riots. I think we're going to see that kind of play out on the screen. So he went to this new dimension. We see that the cops are still dead, but as the camera pans, as we wrap up the episode, which, by the way, Hippolyta did not come out of the portal. I believe she's going to come out some way, somehow, because she has control over this ability now. But we see that under the cop's dead body is Diana's comic with her name on. I don't know if it had an address, but they're going to probably figure out Diana, where she is. She lives in Chicago. And that's going to be interesting, guys. So questions that I had about this episode: who created this device, this time travel device? Where does this Ori come from? And, you know, are we dealing with like a grandfather paradox for my time travelers out there, where essentially her seeing this device, she's able to go back in time to create this device? I don't know if that's the situation that we got here. Tulsa, does Tick go back to save Montrose and Uncle George and potentially his cousin? Is that what we're going to see in the coming weeks? Was Ruby giving intel for Christina? Where did Hippolyta travel to? Where is she going to pop up at? Is Letitia pregnant? And what's the deal with Lancaster wanting that device? So a lot of questions there. We still got other questions that be asked about the Book of Names, Hannah, the relationship between Tick and Letitia, those two family members potentially, and up-and-coming parents potentially. So a lot on the table. But like I said, overall thoughts, wrapping up this review, which, by the way, if you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up. Leave your thoughts, your theories, predictions in the comments below. So I really enjoyed this episode. Again, this wasn't my favorite, but I love what the show is doing. They're not telling their traditional story that we see on TV. They're telling you the story they want to tell. They're showing you, again, women discovering their voice. We see Montrose discovering who he is. Tick learning about his family, learning about himself as a man. There's a lot of self-discovery and people reclaiming themselves in the show, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it, guys. So 7 for 7 so far for me. I'm so excited to see what's to come next in the coming weeks. So many questions to be answered. Am I nervous that they're going to leave some things unanswered? No, because we still have 8, 9, and 10 to discover some of these things. Some things, not everything has to be answered, but I still want some of those big questions answered. But nonetheless, I've been loving this show. I've been loving watching the show with you all, breaking it down every week, doing live streams, which I will be doing more live streams for the show, especially when we get close to the finale. But again, guys, I appreciate all the support. Again, if you haven't already, make sure to like, share, comment your thoughts below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that bell so you don't miss any of my other Lovecraft Country reviews, my other TV show reviews like The Boys, Raised by Wolves, Ted Lasso. Most recently on Amazon, we had Utopia, so check out those TV show reviews, my movie reviews, live streams, and all the fun things we do on this channel. So again, thank you all for watching this video. You guys have a great week. We'll see you on the next one.